Story 1. After I finally got fed up with the toxicity, gaslighting, unnecessary drama, and general nonsense, I broke up with her. She pulled the traditional "no, we're not over because I don't accept it" strategy, so I refused to engage, blocked her everywhere, and went no contact because she kept messaging me and calling to demand we at least meet to have a final talk for closure. Despite my previous attempts, we had only ended up arguing, insulting each other, and blaming me for everything that happened, including additional issues she fabricated to keep things interesting. One time, while I wasn't home, she sent me an email from a new address saying she had my dog, and that if I didn't want something to happen to her, I had to go to her place and have the closure conversation she insisted on. In other words, she showed up at my house while I was away on errands, jumped the fence, broke the lock on the gate that separated my backyard from my front yard, and literally took my dog, threatening to hurt her if I didn't comply. Needless to say, I immediately went to her place to get my dog back. Once I arrived, she locked the door and refused to let me out, demanding I stay and explain why I wasted years of her life, engaging in the usual manipulative tactics toxic ex-partners use, until I told her that if she didn't let me leave with my dog, I would call her roommate on my cell phone and ask to be let out, leaving her to explain why my dog and I were locked in their house in the first place. At that point, it finally dawned on her that there was no way to spin this situation as my fault, and she let me out. The last thing I said to her was to never contact me or come near me or my dog ever again. I had her email admitting to breaking into my house, taking my dog, and threatening to harm her, and at this point, I was prepared to involve lawyers and the police. An ex kidnapping your dog and threatening violence to manipulate you is outrageous, but what really angered me is that we were together for about 8 years, and she was my girlfriend when I adopted my dog as a puppy several years earlier. My dog loved her and saw her as another owner. I honestly don't know if she was bluffing or if she would have hurt my dog if I hadn't immediately gone to get her back. But that behavior was psychotic regardless. Thankfully, it's been years now, and that dog lived to be a venerable 15 years old before finally passing away in my arms after a full life. I never saw that ex again. Story 2. I was using my cell phone to look at a photo of a friend while I was completing my abortion. Story 3. She got married to someone else 2 months into our engagement. There is much to the story, but we slept together the night before, and she lied about taking a road trip with friends. Took a friend of mine sharing a social media post that shook my world. Story 4. Went away on a trip she had planned before we even started dating. A safari with 5 strangers, 4 other women and 1 man, set up by a tourism company catering to those in their 20s and 30s, called The World Within Us. She allowed the 1 man on the trip to get close to her despite being the only one who wasn't single. Then, she texted me the morning of her birthday while still 8,000 miles away, suggesting we should go our separate ways with no further explanation. She ignored my attempts to talk about what was happening, even after I had spent $500 to celebrate her birthday before she left on the trip. Stephanie, if you're reading this, I am very disappointed in you. Story 5. I will never forget the day my ex wiped out our entire joint savings account. We had been together for 5 years and were planning to buy a house. I had been diligently saving for the down payment, and our account had grown to a substantial amount. Story 6. She had my dog put down while I was at work. I came home expecting to see Lexi running up to me as usual, and when she didn't, I asked my ex where she was. She told me Lexi got out and scared the neighbor, so she had her put down. This was a 16-pound Jack Russell that was never aggressive, other than running up and looking to play. I don't use this word often, but my ex is truly inconsiderate. Story 7. I thought it was amusing that she left newborn puppies outside to die because she didn't want her dog to share her love. I discovered why her dog was always depressed, and when I took her away, the dog improved significantly. When the police tried to charge me, I presented the messages, and she was charged instead with providing false information and animal cruelty resulting in death. I didn't understand why I got involved with her. I just wasn't thinking clearly. Story 8. Let's see. She had an affair and left me by her own choice, which changed my life dramatically. A year later, she had a child. 3 years after that, I bought a house. I found out she is now a single mother living in her mother's basement. So yes, life is good for me. I don't have a care in the world now. Story 9. Put me in the hospital where I needed surgery to repair my collarbone, and I had a heart attack during the procedure. Story 10. She lied to me about starting a family for 9 years, then finally told me she would rather harm herself than be a parent, so I asked her to leave. I wasted my 30s on her. Story 11. He cheated on me with 3 different girls, then manipulated me into thinking he was suicidal and needed time to himself, when he actually just got another girlfriend. Story 12. Watching her change, despite my efforts to adapt to her whims, was difficult. She was a devoted churchgoer, always striving to do the right thing. I was a skater who listened to melancholic music and smoked marijuana. I changed for her, aiming to be better. I found a job, listened to gospel music, and set aside my hobbies. Then I discovered she was spending a lot of time with an old high school friend. She began to change herself. She started listening to rock and rap music, began smoking marijuana, took up skating, and would sneak out of the house. It was clear she embraced this new lifestyle and the excitement of someone different. So she stopped texting, calling, and spending time with me, effectively cutting me off while still keeping me around. Meanwhile, I remained, watching helplessly as it unfolded, pleading for her to give me another chance. I had my faults, but I never laid a hand on her, cheated on her, or distanced her from her family. Story 13. Ghosted me. It's a very cruel thing to do. I had known her for years, and I thought I might marry her one day. I'm glad I didn't. Story 14. He turned off his phone from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. and told me he was having it repaired. He added 7 girls on Instagram the same night. Turns out he was just out at a club and went to sleep at a man's house. I believed him. His mother backed him up. Story 15. I was cheated on by someone I considered a friend. I was threatened, blackmailed, and abused both physically and mentally. After we broke up, I was stalked, harassed, and subjected to character assassination. Story 16. Tried to take my house key, which I retrieved without her knowledge, and claimed she would give it to others to ransack my home. Story 17. I don't know where to begin. Made me feel like I cannot share my emotions. Mocked me for having a list of good places to go if I get lost. She was an abuser but never took accountability. There was a lot of manipulation. Otherwise, things would have been chaotic. Randomly called the police on me for no reason because I told her stepmother that she assaulted me, which I reported to the police, but received no help. Story 18. She told my friends that I was only interested in sex, which was completely false. Whatever sexual discussions we had were consensual and based on mutual understanding. I don't understand why she is trying to play the victim card. It made me cry that I trusted this person. Story 19. He picked his nose and ate it. I said, did I just see what I thought I saw? It only got worse when he shaved the beard, and voila, a chinless wonder was revealed. Story 20. My ex-husband cheated on me with one of his coworkers whom I had met several times. The best thing I did was let her have him. Story 21. He insisted on staying at my place because he was having a conflict with his mom and had nowhere to go on our second or third date, without us discussing it beforehand. It was getting late, and I was worried about him missing his last train home. He turned to me and simply said, "Nope, I'm staying at yours." Story 22. There is a scene from a television show where a character finds out his partner cheated on him, leading him to say, "You cheated on me?" After I specifically asked you not to. This became an ongoing joke between us. Unfortunately, it turned into a harsh reality. Our son was born in October, and by December, she was already interacting with other men. It took me 6 months to discover the truth when I noticed a random bruise on her. She had been involved with her new boss at the time. After ending that relationship, she began seeing someone else, ultimately taking the life I envisioned with her and our son and giving it to someone else. This happened 5 years ago. I cannot say I have fully recovered, as I remain hesitant to date or meet anyone. Story 23. He ended our relationship for an 18-year-old high school student, whom he was the resident advisor for during her introductory college summer program. Story 24. I consider myself fortunate because, Compared to what others have experienced, this situation is tame. It's sad that I might encounter a strange ex in the future who will compare our experiences to everyone else's. In high school, I would dread going home mainly because of my family situation. What made it worse was that he would call and text me constantly, threatening to harm himself if I didn't respond. Whenever I tried to end the relationship, he would make the same threats. He pressured me a lot into having inappropriate conversations. For example, I would join a call expecting a normal discussion, but he would immediately show me explicit pictures as soon as we started talking. He often steered the conversation towards sexual topics. I didn't always feel comfortable with that, but if I said no, he would threaten to hurt himself. Many of my friends told me that I was being unfair to him and that I should have been more accepting. Please remember that this was a high school relationship. I don't believe we would have been compatible even if I had been more accepting, as we didn't share many interests aside from texting. So, if we evaluate this not by who was wrong but by compatibility, I simply didn't like what he liked and therefore we were not compatible. Story 25. He coerced me into having sex to prove I didn't cheat on him. He told his ex that he loves her and frequently saw her behind my back. He claimed he sold his soul to the devil, which is why he couldn't stay away from his ex. He was a drug dealer and often gave me the excuse that his grandmother died and he was sad. Story 26. He told me we both needed to work on our sobriety and that he wasn't putting me in good environments. This was after I had completed detox for alcohol, following our time together during Christmas and New Year's Eve. He asked if I would be upset if he used cocaine on New Year's, and then ended the relationship the following weekend. It turns out he started dating a new girl on December 21st while I was in rehabilitation. Story 27. He had a child from an affair when I couldn't have children. We separated when the baby was born, and he brought the baby to show me. Took me years to get over it. Story 28. I was kicked out of the apartment I acquired for her and her children. A man moved in who had inappropriate interests. I had to have them removed through the courts. That was over 20 years ago, and they are still together. Story 29. I spent what was supposed to be our first Valentine's Day with his friend, whom he dislikes, who had been dumped a few weeks earlier. They ended up watching Captain America, even though he knew I wanted to watch it with him. I just said, okay. Story 30. Put me down. He was an amazing man, and I would have happily been with him forever. However, he seemed unable to stop putting me down half of the time, which led to my resentment and ultimately the end of the relationship. At other times, he was the most loving partner I had ever met, making it all the more heartbreaking to leave him because I loved him. Story 31. A man was with her in the back seat of her car, and she lied about it when I saw her drive away. She had told me she was at home the whole time. Story 32. Break up with me, screaming every time we disagreed about anything, no matter how small, and then call me the next day, acting like we were still together and that the breakup meant nothing. This happened probably 6 times before I finally walked away. Yes, I know I should have walked away sooner. Story 33. Made me gain weight by feeding me lots of home-cooked meals and then broke my heart. I went from fit and fabulous to chubby and single. Story 34. Cheat on me with a girl who was naive enough to post video footage of him and her together at an event that he strongly denied attending. Instagram doesn't lie. Story 35. He attempted to take his own life by swallowing an entire bottle of his seizure medication, and I had to watch him slowly start to die on my lawn while he called my name for help and foamed at the mouth until the ambulance arrived. Story 36. Punch me 3 times. I chased her to the room to ensure she didn't take my gun. She thought I was going to shoot her. I told her I could just throw her out the window. I taught her to shoot so she understands firearms. I am 6 feet 3 inches tall and weigh over 200 pounds, while she is 5 feet 1 inch tall and weighs around 110 pounds. I took the hits and moved out. Story 37. They grabbed me by the throat and pinned me to the wall, or the ongoing psychological abuse that preceded the physical violence. Now it is referred to as coercive control. Story 38. On 4 different occasions, she faked medical emergencies that required an ambulance to take her to the hospital. On one occasion, she knew what movie a friend and I were watching, faked an emergency in the theater lobby, and had the police come to pull me out in the middle of the film. The lights turned on, and there was an announcement for me to come down to the police. It was quite a mess. Story 39. Cheat on me the day after Christmas with 2 different people, then hit me when I found out about it. Story 40. My ex, years later, told me that I had cheated on her with her friend early in the relationship and forgave me for it. When we broke up, she said she had been resenting me ever since. I didn't cheat on her. I had only spoken to that girl once. Story 41. I announced to our families that I was pregnant with our second child. He then decided that he would prefer to be with the girl he went to high school with and asked me to terminate the pregnancy. Story 42. She emotionally manipulated me into having sex with her when I didn't want to and would become angry whenever I refused. Story 43. Limited intimacy, requested I change my last name to hers when we were to get married, and ultimately betrayed my trust. Story 44. Gaslight and manipulated. I had the audacity to reconcile as friends after years of being ignored. They didn't accept me for who I am. Story 45. Tried to hit me multiple times, but she is ineffective at it, so I avoided her attempts. She tried to prevent me from seeing my children and falsely accused me of harming her daughter. I have full custody now and no longer have to deal with her behavior. She has also exhibited erratic behavior and blocked communication after claiming my children told her, through some psychic means, that I do not provide for them. Story 46. She convinced me to attend the college she went to, then cheated on me. After that, she led me on because I still wanted to be with her. We were intimate, but then she gaslighted me, claiming I was making things up. I spent a lot of money, and then she moved abroad without any closure. It was one of the most miserable and pathetic times of my life. Story 47. Supporting a terrorist organization. She thinks they are fighting for God. I do not engage with such women on social media. Story 48. I was stabbed in the back, literally, with a pair of scissors. She thought I was somehow cheating on her, which I wasn't at all. At that point, I didn't have the time or energy to even consider cheating. Story 49. I went to Miami and he ignored me for 4 days while still responding to everyone else. He told me he loved me and that he would never leave, but by the time I got home that night, all of his belongings were gone from the house. Story 50. Abused me in many ways and made me feel like I would never be loved or find someone else again. The feelings still linger 2 years later. When I met up with her to get my belongings back, she just laughed about her actions and offered me no apologies. Story 51. He accused me of giving him food poisoning after I spent days preparing and cooking for a summer barbecue with friends. Nobody else got sick. It turns out he contracted Shigella from an encounter with 2 random individuals at a nearby pond. He then yelled at me for going to work instead of staying home to take care of him. Story 52. Masturbating over my Facebook friends and girls from the climbing club. He did it to my best friend, mutual friends, and random girls. It was a pattern. The worst part was that it happened in the mornings while I was caring for his son and making his coffee. It also occurred during his lunch breaks, but at least I wasn't in the house. Story 53. She gave me sexually transmitted infections multiple times due to continuous cheating, but she manipulated and psychologically broke me down to the point where I was convinced there must be something wrong with me because she claimed she never cheated on me and didn't pick up anything. To this day, she denies that anything like this ever happened. Story 54. Convinced all our mutual friends that I was untrustworthy to protect themselves from me, revealing that they were involved in inappropriate behavior. Story 55. We dated for several months when he asked me to wait for him and not see anyone else while he went away for basic training. I agreed, worked extra hours to save money to see him graduate, checked on his mother, and sent him a couple of care packages, only for him to end our relationship the first weekend he was home so he could go party and be with other women. Story 56. He cheated on me with a 17-year-old girl while he was 42 and had a 15-year-old daughter. He often abused women, which is completely unacceptable. Story 57. She forced me out of my home and then filed for divorce after discovering I had cancer and was given 6 months to live. Story 58. I was involved with 2 different individuals, and then I was expected to be okay with the last one who ended our relationship. They also allowed me to be disrespected when I was emotional about how my partner treated me. I regret staying around for as long as I did. Story 59. He would often not inform me if he was unable to pay the bills. At the time, I was still a stay-at-home mom. His compulsive lies motivated me to return to school because I knew I couldn't depend on him. The worst moment was when my car was repossessed. I heard it happening but thought it was trash day. I have ADHD, so I didn't realize they were taking my car since it was 3 months overdue. I had been giving him money through student loans, which is why my student loans are so high. He essentially ruined me financially and left everything to me. I had the power and water shut off multiple times. The landlord constantly knocked on my door, frightening me and the kids. He never tried to fix anything, which made the situation worse. A tiny pinhole leak in the pipe ruined the floor. I walked on a soggy, moldy carpet for a year before I could persuade him to do anything. He refused to call a service or anyone and kept making excuses. The roof caved in, a small fix. I had to abandon the trailer for demolition. He was able to buy a home. My sons wanted to live with him since he never enforced bedtimes or asked anything of them. He never even checked to make sure my oldest son was brushing his teeth, and they rotted out, costing me a lot, and he still needs more work. He is always gone and rarely at home. I can't get my sons to spend time with me since they are comfortable there and, like me, are set in their routines, even if it's just gaming. I am not giving up on my kids or holding on to resentment. It just sometimes eats at me, especially now. Story 60. The first individual kept trying to get me to watch videos of him engaging in inappropriate behavior, as well as a video of his ex doing the same after I had just informed him that I had passed out at work. His response was that it would make me feel better. The second individual was trying to persuade another girl, whom he had only known for a week, to give him her virginity by telling her he loved her and wanted to be with her, all while simultaneously trying to convince me to get back together with him because he still loved me. Story 61. He said, "I understand why your dad used to hit your mom. I don't really like her either." That did not last long. Story 62. She lied and manipulated me, doing everything to separate me from my parents and the rest of my family. Towards the end of our marriage, when she realized it was over, she physically assaulted me. She also cheated, but I discovered that after the divorce. That's what happens when you marry a gold-digging narcissist. To other men, don't ignore red flags. Don't try to work on the marriage. Just leave. Story 63. The first one was emotionally and physically abusive. She said things like, "Nobody would want to date you. You should appreciate the fact that I am with you." She also punched and strangled me several times. Story 64. She left me while I was at work. We were married and were supposed to go to a concert a half-day's drive away for the weekend that night. It was meant to be a nice little vacation and a 4-day weekend. I got home from work at 3 p.m. and was met by a police officer at the door to serve me divorce papers. I walked inside, and the entire house was empty. No, I am not exaggerating. She took everything. Kitchen appliances, cabinets were empty. The dining room, office, and living room were completely cleaned out. There was nothing on the walls. My clothes were in a pile on the floor because she took the hangers. The dogs and cats were gone, along with the shower curtain rod, hooks, and shower head. Everything was gone. I grabbed a plastic bag from my neighbor, collected some clothes, and called my dad, informing him I was on my way. He lived 2 hours away. While I was on the road, I tried to call my best friend, but he wasn't answering. I've known this guy since we were toddlers. We were inseparable. Finally, about an hour into the drive, he answered. "Bro, she left me. She took everything and just left. I can't get a hold of her at all. She's gone. I'm on my way to Dad's. Are you around there?" "Yeah, man, I know. We helped her. We came up with 3 pickups and a moving truck this morning and moved her back with her parents. She even took my best friends. Come to find out, the courts were not pleased with her taking off with all our stuff, so they ordered her to return it, which she did, but in pieces because it was all broken." Story 65. After a long time, I finally did the right thing and left her. She sent me a delayed text saying she was sorry for what she did and told me where to find her suicide note, which was 35 pages long, blaming me for her death. I pieced together clues from the note, and with help from the police, I found her. After 3 days on life support, she pulled through. Story 66. He's a fault finder who blamed me for our lukewarm relationship and everything I lack. Time is the ultimate truth teller, and eventually, it came to light that he was attracted to another woman while we were still together. More than a decade has passed, but I still cannot redeem my confidence. Story 67. He told me he had cancer when he didn't. It was supposedly in his foot, and he would come into the house limping. At one point, he said it would probably need to be amputated. Then played the perfect boyfriend by checking if there was anything he could do to ease my devastation at the news. Story 68. They attempted to blackmail me, and when they got caught, they tried to rephrase it as something else. It is documented in text and email. Story 69. One ex accidentally overdosed on heroin after promising he wasn't using anymore. I felt a lot of guilt because it happened after an argument, and I only found out 2 weeks later. I thought he had ghosted me. Another person refused to go to medical appointments and then tried blaming me when her health deteriorated. I ended up feeling burnt out because of her manipulative behavior and silence. Story 70. She lied to me about sleeping at her ex's place and then confessed, after I asked bluntly, that I had just helped her move in with former sexual partners. The best part is that after we had a fight over messaging, where she tried to downplay the situation and I started to feel angry and question her love for me, she ghosted me and later broke up with me over the phone. Although she wanted to end it that way, we spoke one last time in person when she finalized the breakup. Afterward, she blamed me for everything wrong in the relationship, calling me unstable. The self-doubt I experienced from how things ended between us seriously affected me for months. Even though our relationship lasted only about 4 months, I am still recovering. Story 71. When I became pregnant, he said to me, "You either keep it and ruin my life or get rid of it and ruin yours." He also cheated on me with his colleague during a night out. When I confronted him about it, he told me I was delusional. We broke up, and he was in an official relationship with her 2 weeks later. Story 72. A curated selection of the 5 years I wasted on my worst ex. She cheated with the brother of the bride at her brother's wedding, which I wasn't invited to. He attended every family event afterward. Way to think it through. She physically assaulted people for walking away from her during an argument. I still have the scars nearly 9 years later. She picked fights with my family over nonsense, never apologized, and wondered why they didn't want her around. She insisted upon being hit during intimate moments. She exhibited road rage, flipped people off, laid on the horn, and was so obnoxious that multiple people got out of their cars and tried to confront her. She got excessively drunk at any opportunity, at any time of day, in any social setting. Less egregious but still embarrassing. She refused to drink anything but her favorite beer and whiskey. If we went to a bar where they didn't have it, she'd stealthily steal a glass and pour one out from her purse. An amusing bit of context. She was, and I believe still is, a practicing social worker who specializes in addiction and relationship counseling. Story 73. I forgot something. She tried to pressure me to shave closely, like my body, and I think my face as well, on 2 separate occasions on the same day. If things weren't her way, there was chaos, and I had to have sex with her. She also cheated on her boyfriend with me. Story 74. I am removing my birth control to find myself. 2 weeks later, there was a breakup. She immediately moved in with another man she was working with, became pregnant, and got married within 6 months. That situation affected me deeply for a while. In retrospect, there were clear signs of infidelity that I asked her about, and she lied to me. I was in denial because I did not want to believe it, and she told me it was all in my head. Story 75. I had to leave him because he said he had no time for our relationship. He also mentioned that he would not actively seek any relationships in the near future. Guess what? 1 month later, he had a new girlfriend. How easily words can be spoken. Story 76. I thought I was in a 6-year monogamous relationship planning a future, But it turns out he had another girlfriend and slept with dozens of women during that time. Yet he maintained appearances with me as his girlfriend. I caught him cheating and confronted him. He never admitted it, ghosted me, refused to speak with me ever again, and got a one-night stand pregnant a few months later. He married her because it was the right thing to do, he told people. We grew up together, were best friends, and shared many friends whom he continued to hang out with. I had to drop my friend group because of the betrayal. The last time he spoke to me was the day I confronted him about the cheating. I have run into him a few times over the years, and he acts as if he doesn't know me. I do the same. It's bizarre. A simple breakup conversation would have sufficed. I'm over him since it has been so long, but the cruelty of how he discarded me haunts me. Story 77. Waiting so long to take out the trash that it was overflowing. Eating the last of his fries before I could take them. Filling the apartment with an unpleasant smell. Never asking me out but trying to make a nice dinner instead. In reality, he ignored me for his computer, even when my life was falling apart, among a few other things. Story 78. He had 3 long-term girlfriends at the same time, including me. None of us, the first for 7 years, me for 6 years, and the last for 2 years, knew about each other. We all found out at his father's funeral. And to make matters worse, he got the last one pregnant. Story 79. I took my childhood cat with me when we broke up, and he moved out. He left while I was at work, and I didn't expect him to take my cat. I have no idea where he took her since he blocked me on everything. A mutual friend reassured me not to worry because she's not missing. He just took her because he wanted to. I hope she's doing well. I miss her so much. Story 80. I told him my grandfather died, and he took me to his place to console me. However, once we got to his room, he started to kiss me and touch me inappropriately. I just pretended to moan and fake an orgasm because I was desperate for him to stop. Story 81. My second ex-wife has untreated histrionic personality disorder. She told everyone we knew that she had cancer to garner sympathy and attention, including her own children. In fact, she did not have cancer. She maintained this ruse for over 2 years, even going so far as to attend fake chemotherapy appointments and cutting small bits of her hair. Story 82. Cheated on me with someone I thought was my best friend. She told me about it after asking for my financial help, as she was embarrassed to ask her wealthy father. After our breakup, she was hospitalized due to a serious suicide attempt and wrote to me, saying it was my fault. This happened in 1993, and I finally got over it only recently. Story 83. Stabbed me with a fork, took the dog, ghosted me for 2 months, then broke up over text, and later asked me to get back together 4 months later. She screamed at me nightly for weeks, claiming that I had ruined her life after she had been cheating on me. Take your pick. Story 84. Everything is characterized by gaslighting, manipulation, and overall abuse. He even tried using his recently deceased father to convince me to get back together. Story 85. I retired and had my savings stolen. I accumulated almost $90,000 in credit card debt. I was left stranded 200 miles from home when I ran out of money and credit, and I can't move back. Story 86. He stalked me everywhere, harassed the people around me, and threatened me until I agreed to date him for the sake of my safety. Essentially, it was a forced relationship, and it was the worst decision of my life. I still regret that choice. While I was in that relationship, I lost my confidence, became a loner, and lost friends. They didn't leave me. I maintained a distance to prevent him from messing with them. I also became distant from my own family. He verbally abused me and made me feel guilty for my existence. Every time I tried to break up with him, he threatened to harm himself. He left me with trauma for the rest of my life. I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, insomnia, and panic attacks. After 3 years of being together, I finally gathered the courage to break up. He tried his best to keep me, but I was determined. Now it's been 5.5 years, and I am free and at peace. Even today, I experience anxiety and still suffer from insomnia, but at least I am at peace. Story 87. He cheated and hid it for about 5 months, despite having previously given me an entire speech about honesty and his strong dislike for lying. Story 88. I was in a relationship forced by him. I was stuck in that place with him for a few months. I experienced a lot of horrible things in my life. I would say the worst things about him were: 1. I found out that he was involved in human trafficking with younger girls while he had a secret biological son, which resulted from being raped by a woman who drugged him. 2. He planned to murder me by choking me in bed or holding a gun to me. And 3. I vomited after sipping an iced coffee because he had sneezed in the cup before giving it to me. Story 89. He used the death of someone very dear to me as a weapon in an argument. I was supposed to get over it because he was just trying to hurt me. Story 90. She divorced me under the guise of wanting to be a better person when, in fact, she was having an affair with a coworker who also destroyed his family for her. His wife developed breast cancer after he left her and their 2 daughters. He moved into my old bed 4 days after I left, and 18 months later, I was sued for full custody when we had a 50-50 arrangement. I was a stay-at-home dad for over 5 years and was sued for not being able to provide basic care for our child, even though I am a photographer. My daughter and I have had no contact for 2 years. Story 91. She was a travel nurse. She cooked a lot of food for her coworkers and left my kitchen a disaster. She didn't leave me a single bite. She was gone for a week before her schedule allowed her to come home. I left the mess for her. She came home for 2 days and didn't even attempt to clean it, well knowing that my kitchen was my sanctuary. There were other issues involved, so I fired her shortly thereafter. Story 92. An ex of mine tried to kidnap me and was planning to lock me in their basement. I am happy he was so foolish that when he attempted it, he not only got caught but accidentally kidnapped the wrong person. He kidnapped someone who looked like me but wasn't me. He received jail time. Story 93. One of my best friend's brothers, her ex, and some random person named Brad, along with others. All of this happened while I was financially supporting her. She tried to regain my attention when I finally moved on. I am happily married for almost 10 years now. As they say, you have to go through some difficult experiences before you meet the right one. Story 94. After we broke up, she found the address of my office building and sent me a glitter bomb. A few weeks later, she saw me at a bar, assaulted me, and threw a glass at me. Story 95. He tried to pressure me into having a baby with him less than a month after I graduated from high school. He was still in high school as well. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.